just thought I'd take a short break just to let you know about becoming a Breakout Bestie. So we've launched a brand new subscription service for the small businesses that need us in your pocket. So why do you need to become a Breakout Bestie? Well, it's just a monthly subscription that gives you access to us when you need us. There's a closed group where you can ask us any question you need. There's also an anonymous posting on, so if you've got clients in the same group, you can ask us anything and we'll get back to you. Sometimes that'll be a quick answer, other times it might be that we need a bit more of an in-depth chat. There'll also be posts and information on the latest trends, the latest strategies for social media, upcoming things from HMRC that you may have missed, just anything you need to make your life easier to run your business. You'll also have access to our client base and money off discounts and vouchers for various services we've got coming out. This is brand new, it's only just been launched, so have a look, go on our website under Besties and sign up soon.
The hiring process in general, as an employer, it does cost you money, it costs you time.
Yeah.
If you're looking to hire a candidate, knowing what you want from that person and really being able to niche that down and make that very, very, very clear. You need to be so specific with your wants and needs for your business.
Hi and welcome to Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. This podcast is specifically for business owners or wannabe business owners. Say you've got a side hustle or you've got a passion for something and you think it'd be absolutely amazing, or you see people that do amazing things with their passions and what they enjoy doing. Well, you can do that. So please subscribe and we hope you enjoy listening to this episode.
Hello and welcome to Breakout Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. Today it is another Nisha takeover while Farley is still away, and we are lucky enough to be joined by Mr. Record and Repurpose himself, Liam, today.
Hi everyone, how you doing?
He's back for an episode, but for now, for today, we are going to discuss the hiring process. So that's both for as an employee looking for work and an employer looking to hire. So we thought we would just sort of touch on some tips, some tricks, and a little bit of advice if you're thinking about going for a new job or thinking about looking for some employees.
Absolutely. I think it's one of them, isn't it, that as a kid you might get, I don't know, half a day where you do some mock interview practice, which is a nice safe environment. You kind of know the teachers or the people guiding you through that process, and you know that there's no real risk towards it because there's not actually a job at the end of it. But also thinking of it from like a business owner's point of view, or even just a manager's point of view. I know we've both talked about how we've been in that situation where you've been asked to go and recruit somebody.
Yeah.
And it's just total curveball. So yeah, we hopefully we'll bring some tips and tricks that we've come up with from our experience. But it is certainly one of those activities that doesn't happen very often.
Very true. Interestingly enough, you just said, at school you do a half day. So we did the same. We had like a little half day, and they brought in external employers for us to just be randomly interviewed by, which was great because it is a bit more real world than just, your maths teacher. But you can't do any prep. You don't know who that person is. You don't know what their business is. So you're fake interviewing for a job that you know nothing about, which isn't actually realistic at all.
No.
And we'll sort of get into preparing and everything. But I think probably the first where we start with this conversation is knowing as an employer, if you're looking to hire a candidate, knowing what you want from that person and really being able to niche that down and make that very, very, very clear. I think we've both been in a situation where maybe you've gone for an interview somewhere and actually speaking to the person and hearing about the job's day to day was never mentioned in the job description.
Yeah.
And that throws a curveball in itself.
Yeah.
Because you can be sat there and, you know, they're telling you day to day, this is what your job role will look like. And actually, that doesn't fit with what you want, and you don't think you can give that. So I think as an employer, one of the first things you need to think about when you're looking into the hiring process is you need to be so specific
100%.
with your wants and needs for your business.
Yeah. And yeah, there's nothing worse, is there, than kind of you're in that situation, you're thinking, I need this job, or I really want this job.
Yeah.
And then they throw up something that you might have some experience on, but like in that 30 seconds, you're like, oh my God, I can't think of anything. Or it's just not that right fit. And you kind of, I don't know, I would probably feel a bit bad and think, well, I could kind of do that, even though that's not what I wanted to do. Know that there was one job that I applied for, having just been made redundant, and the initial kind of post was all about content creation, and it was for like a car lot. So I thought, oh, I'm going to go around and, you know, just get my foot in the door and do a bit of content creation for them. But actually, it was heavily involved with sales as well.
Oh, really?
And so that was actually like
not what you wanted to do.
Not going to pursue this in the end. But it's so important from both sides of the fence, really. So as an employee, they can prepare and they can be understanding exactly what it is that you expect them to do. But as an employer as well, you're telling them what they're going to be doing. You don't want to have that experience where you're getting somebody involved, you're asking somebody to come and be a part of your team, and then for whatever reason it doesn't work out because they didn't know all that information up front.
It's the hiring process in general, as an employer, it does cost you money, it costs you time.
Yeah.
To sit and interview people does take a while. You've got to get to know that person to see if they're going to fit you and your business. But each interview, I think most interviews I've conducted in my time, I was a retail manager previously, so I did interviews for years, and each one is about an hour, roundabout, give or take. Sometimes there are some that are over within 10 minutes. Because you just get a one-word answer. But, you do sort of sit aside an hour. That is an hour of your day, of your time, of your money-making time, especially as like a smaller business owner.
Yeah.
Time is so important.
And that's an hour just set aside for the interview.
Yeah.
You also got to think about the questions that will come on to, like preparing questions.
Yeah.
About going through the process of advertising, then receiving the applications. Like that time's going to mount up. So before you know it, I think, it's probably a couple of days.
Oh, definitely.
Think about it.
Yeah. And, speaking of applications, that's probably the next thing you want to start thinking about. So once you've understood exactly what you need to ask of people, and you've been specific in your job description, you need to think about, okay, how do I want people to apply for this job? What's the best way for them to contact me? Do I want them to come in with their CV? Do I want them to email me? Do I want a cover letter? There's so many different formats you can have your applications in. It could just be a questionnaire that they fill in. It could be anything. And that changes depending on your needs and wants as a business owner. I
think a great example of that is recently Finnegan's Whiskers.
Yes.
Did an application process for somebody to go and help with the cafe element and being welcoming the people going in to have that cat experience, but also the welfare of the cats as well had to be taken in mind. But the thing that I really liked what Shelley did was that she had the application that you had to fill in the regular questions and the CV and whatnot, but you also had to do a little 30-second video of yourself or a minute video explaining the kind of person that you are, but also why that job was important to yourself. And I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a video if it's not a front-facing role, but some kind of exercise that's more than just a copy and paste CV cover letter where you're just changing a few details. Adding that extra hoop for somebody to jump through kind of will help you understand them a little bit more about how much effort they're putting in, and hopefully give you a representation of the kind of thing that you're going to see.
Yeah. And I think that helps you also weed out those that are just mass applying for jobs. Like, that is a reality, that there are people out there that are just firing off CVs left, right and centre and seeing what sticks. I think for a role so front facing, like you said, you need to know that that person has those skills, because someone's CV could look amazing. They could have all this experience. They could be so clever. And, you know, I've seen it before interviewing candidates. They seem like they are going to be perfect.
Yeah.
If you sit down with them and they have no people skills, it's an absolute waste of time. And you can't tell that from a CV.
No.
And I think, roles that are customer facing, things like videos are such a great way to weed out not only those that aren't just mass applying and finding anything, you find those people that really want that, but also it saves you time, because you know from that video, okay, well, first of all, they've filmed it in the first place, so they clearly want it. And second of all, you can tell they've got people skills. They're just talking to a camera and they can do it, which is arguably a lot harder than talking to somebody face to face.
As we full well know.
So it's a great way to save yourself time in the application process. So that's probably another thing to think about. So you've got your specific description, and then you've got the way that they apply. Both of those things, niching that down and refining that process, will make it so much easier for you, the employer, and the employee. You can see a lot easier what your potential employer wants from you. Lost my train of thought again.
I think that is really important. From we've kind of focused a lot on the employer there, but from the employee as well. Another step that you can do is, once you've got that job description, once you've got that application form or the requirement of a video, for example, is doing a little bit of homework, doing a little bit of research, a little bit of what is this company about? What are their values? What kind of things are they doing? So if you are a little bit unsure on the outset, like a social media job at a building firm, for example, you know, social media kind of can cover so many different aspects.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And as you rightly said in your previous episode, you know, to some people that might not be of interest.
Oh, yeah.
Like the subject matter is thinking about how you can be creative with that and trying to get some ideas, because if you can do a little bit of research before you start the application process, that's just going to help you to be a bit more informed and to come across a bit better when you're hopefully in that interview itself.
Yeah, definitely. It will help you stand out from the crowd for the right reasons. You know, when you get to the end of the interview and the interviewer asks, do you have any questions for me? As an employer, one of the worst things you can say is, nope. Even if you think you already know the answer to it, ask it anyway, because it makes you look so much better to know that you've done the research, you've looked into the company, you know exactly what you're applying for, you know what you're getting into. It gives your employer so much more trust that you understand their brand, their values, and the job that you will be undertaking. It's a great way to stand out from the crowd, because, you know, 7 interviews of, nope, I don't want to ask any questions. The one that does, I guarantee you, your employer will feel like they've built a bit more rapport with you, that you understand the job a little bit easier.
And that you're happy to ask questions.
Yes.
As well, because I think that as a potential employer, they want to be able to trust you.
Yes, 100%.
They want to build that rapport with you. They want to build that trust with you, because as something you were saying in our little kind of planning session for what we're going to talk about this episode, it's as a small business owner, if you are employing somebody, you are trusting them to be the front for your business. You're
definitely
trusting them to be part of your brand. And if you're brave enough, you know, it might be scary, but if you're brave enough, or if you're, you know, switched on enough to be able to ask a question that makes them think a little bit as well. Remember that this is your opportunity to find out about that business. So if you do have any questions, you know, what's it actually like to work here? You tell me why I should be choosing your company to work for. That kind of thing. You don't have to be quite as hard-headed as that, because you do want to have that level of trust, but just gauge that question ability as well, and think about something that, you know, if you're able to do something that the 7 other people haven't, then you're just going to stand head and shoulders above those kinds of people.
100%. And it's, like you touched on, these people that you are going to employ are fully representing you entirely. You can spend 10 years building your business, building trust in your customers, building your reputation in your local area, and you could have the most stellar reputation in the area. But if you hire somebody, they could potentially knock that in one conversation. And you don't know that. So you need to be able to trust the person that you're employing to fully represent you, your brand, your values, your morals, everything. When Farley isn't here, she's not here this week, she needs to be able to go away and trust that myself and Andy can sit in this office and represent her and her business vision perfectly.
Yeah.
That everybody that comes in will get the same level of service they would if she was here.
Yeah.
And the fact that she trusts me to do that is amazing. You need to be trusting your employee with that. If you sit there and there is a moment in your mind with some doubt that actually I'm not sure this person will offer the same level of service that I can, then maybe they're not right for you.
Yeah.
It's very vice versa. We talk a lot about employees fitting the job. There's a lot of employers fitting the job as well. It works entirely both ways. You both need to be a perfect fit. If I sat here and my morals and my values didn't align with Farley's, even though it's her business, her, advertising the job, if I didn't fit with that and I didn't agree with what she was doing or the way she ran her business, I wouldn't be here because it needs to work for both parties.
Yeah, and I think the level of honesty as well with that as well. So, you might need a job or you might want to move away from what you're doing currently. But just thinking to yourself, in the long term, and again, this kind of works in both ways, but in the long term, can I see myself doing that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long, in that longer term period? But also from the employer's point of view, looking at this individual, they might have great accolades, they might have a great reputation, they've got great experience, but how long are you hoping to employ that person for? Like, is it just the short term thinking that you need? Are you thinking, if this person is qualified up to their eyeballs, and has got some great potential, but they might be off in 6 months. I had a situation where I was asked to hire somebody as part of our e-learning department at one point, and the guy who come in for the interview was at manager level, and he was at my level, and he was applying for the junior role.
Yep.
Which kind of was a red flag for me and like alarm bells. But I was lent on by some more senior figures to say, no, this guy needs to be employed, because he'd built some rapport with another director and things like that. Yeah. And although I kind of made my case to say, not sure it's the right person for the role, and give my reasons, it turned out that within 6 months he was telling me, like, I was his manager, he was looking for other roles.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't fulfilled. No. Because we didn't do things the way that perhaps he'd done in the past. We weren't at the level that he was looking for. But if you think about that from the business's point of view, what a waste of time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He was a great guy and everything.
Yeah.
But we just gone through that whole interview process, spent all that money in the advertising and the time it took. But then we had to then go through that whole process once
again.
Over.
Yeah. As small business owners, it will take a toll on you to have to sit and explain your business, your brand, your morals to somebody every 6 months. You need to think about long term. Are they going to be with you? It takes a lot of time to train somebody to do what you do. Obviously, that is dependent on the business.
Yeah.
But just to understand your morals, your values, that takes time to teach that to somebody. And if every 6 months you're having to go through the hiring process, that is so costly to small business owners. you want to know somebody is on board and keep them there for the long run. You know, they can then branch out your business. You know, when I started here, Farley explained that if I want my own breakout, she can help me with that. I can go and make my own one somewhere else with her support. It's building your brand as well as just work. It's not just a job, especially when it is small businesses that you're getting involved in.
Yeah. It's having a gut feeling about somebody as well, isn't it? I think that's the kind of the accolades and the experiences and the application itself, what got on there, is being able to get a feel for that person. And when you're in that interview environment, it's kind of trying to figure out, you know, is this a person that I'm going to be able to spend 5 days a week with?
Oh yeah.
If we're working together, or is this person understanding what I'm saying? Like, are they just saying yes and nodding, and behind the eyes, actually they're thinking, oh my God, this is out of my depth, or you know, with some of those qualifying questions that you're going to ask. Yeah. It's trying to think about the whole thing, not just in the moment. I think another thing to think about is also not necessarily saying you're hired on the spot. Yeah. Because it could be like that in that moment that you're excited about what that person's saying, you kind of think that you've got a good relationship, but you might interview the next person and they might be a bit better. Or on reflection, you might kind of sit back and think, actually, that was great, but when I think about that answer in a little bit more depth, maybe it's not where it needs to be. And another example that I've got is I had a manager or a director at a previous company I worked for told me how great somebody was, and they'd hired them there on the spot after they'd done a bit of a product demonstration. But the person that I worked with was like not necessarily the best team player.
Okay.
So perhaps if there would have been some, you know, some scenario questions thrown in there, you know, like how do you get on with people, or how can you give us some examples of how you work well together with people and things like that. There were kind of, it might have been great from that person's interview, but actually trying to get somebody, if you're perhaps a bit more senior and you're hiring somebody to be working at a front of house position, maybe getting another person in on the interview as well might be a good shout.
Just to see how they sort of act as part of a team.
Yeah. How they communicate with people, that kind of thing.
I think touching on what you just said there, is thinking about the sort of questions you're going to ask in an interview. You know, if you are an employer looking to hire, that interview process, like we said, it does take time, and it is going to take time out of your day, and it is costly. You want to make it as efficient as possible. You want to make sure that you are asking all the relevant questions, and try and include specifics, you know, industry specifics. Okay, well, if this was to happen, how would you react? If this was to happen, what would you do? Because that tells you everything. You're putting them in, you know, the hot seat for a minute, throwing them in the deep end, but it is relevant. And I know that in my old corporate job, a big part of the interview process was throwing them in the deep end massively. And now I think back to it, I think, oh God, that's terrifying. But we'd give them service challenge, which was literally, they go downstairs and talk to people. Just go and talk to customers. And obviously they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. And it is putting them in the deep end properly. But it is very sink or swim.
That's so revealing though, isn't it? Because
telling.
Because somebody might sit upstairs and say, oh, I'm great with people. All right, go and just have a little browse and, you know, ask everyone if they're all right and things like that. Yeah. Just seeing how they respond.
It kind of gives you a bit of an insight of, okay, well, maybe they're not the best with customers. Yeah. They're okay. But actually, what else are they doing? Okay, maybe they're not, you know, as in your face as you'd like them to be. But actually, if you watch them, they're tidying. Yeah. They're not just stood there twiddling their thumbs.
Are they willing to try?
They're willing to try, and they're thinking about other areas of the business. Okay, well, that's just sort of out of place. Let me just fix that. Mm-hmm. All those little details that you can't often, you know, explicitly ask for in somebody It's just when it's demonstrated to you, you think, okay, maybe there is a place for you in the team. Maybe it's not as customer facing as we would have hoped, but actually you have other benefits that would work.
Yeah.
So it's finding out all round if they're going to fit somewhere in your business. It might not be where you originally thought it would be.
100%. And trying to kind of gauge whether somebody's just there for the paycheck.
Yes.
Or if they're kind of going to be a bit more proactive about things.
Yeah. Do they want the job? Are they actually interested? Because you, like you said, you can talk the talk.
Yeah.
But it's giving them the opportunity to actually walk it, do it.
Give us a bit of a trial run. I suppose having like, rather than offering a job straight away as well, some companies have probation periods.
Yeah.
But also you could have like a trial as well. So like, get somebody to come in for a day and see them in action and things like that. Because we might all think we're going to be good at stuff, and then, talking about transferable skills are great, but it might be that you're just not quite there with where you need to be, for example.
100%. And I think, again, touching on something that you said earlier was, yes, this person, they could pass the interview with flying colours. They could pass the service challenge with flying colours. Do you get on with them? You could meet someone and go, yeah, I like you, face value. I don't really know you, but in a job sense, yeah, perfectly fine. If you don't get on with them, that's a massive detriment, and your customers will pick up on it, your customers and your clients. I now spend more time with Farley than probably anybody else. When she's here, especially now that we're in one office rather than two, me and her spend all day together, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
We are so in sync with each other. We get on like a house on fire. We just get each other. If we didn't, not only would it be incredibly awkward, it would make such a horrible working environment, not only for both of us, but anybody that's set foot in our office or, bought into our services. Our besties, wouldn't have a good time because you could feel the tension. You'd walk into the office and you'd be like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for like a 20-minute meeting.
Yeah.
Because you will feel the tension, and that can start off as a tiny little bit of maybe we don't get on. Over time, when you spend that much time together, that develops, and that's not
healthy.
It's not healthy for anybody, for your customers, your clients, or for you guys. The person that you hire, you do ultimately, they have to be good at the job, but you have to like them.
Yeah. You don't have to be best friends, but you have to be comfortable enough to know that you're going to be a good team together.
Oh yeah.
I've worked with some people who have been challenging to work with.
Yeah.
Where it's just been, and whether you can find that in the interview process, or maybe that is more of a probational period.
Yeah.
Where people are showing their true colours a little bit more. It's just looking out for those kind of alarm bells, really, and yeah, trying to see whether that is going to actually work or not. And I think no is okay as well. Remembering that, like, even if you've only got the one person applying in that moment, don't necessarily say, yeah, we're going to go for it, and then it potentially could work out to be wrong, because it's going to cause you all that issue that you were just talking about.
I couldn't agree more. If you are somebody that struggles with saying no, then that probationary period is going to be your best friend. Even if you meet someone and you think, this is the one, this is the person that gets my business, that understands, still have a probationary period, because you absolutely never know what's going to happen. And that, just as an employer, protects you. And the same as an employee, it protects you as well. It's a contract that you enter into, working with somebody, and it has to work both ways. You have to be in agreement.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always happen. You don't want to get to a position where you're both stuck with something that you're not enjoying.
Yeah.
Being a manager in my past job, there are people I've met and they were great, really great people, and I'd still be friends with them now. But as an employee, it didn't work. We didn't get on. They weren't the best. As a person, brilliant person, love them. As an employee, it didn't work for either of us. And you need the flexibility to be able to say, actually, take a step back. This isn't working for either party.
Yeah.
But I think that is very important to touch on, because
definitely,
if you're in a position where you're thinking, like a lot of small business owners we meet, you're thinking now about taking somebody on for the first time, you don't always know what you should and shouldn't say in an interview, and about probationary periods and things that you need to protect yourself as an employer. Touching on rights and wrongs of hiring, we sort of spoke earlier, didn't we, about things that you would think are basic interview things that everybody should know.
Yeah.
But it might be worth us just touching on them in case you yourself are looking for a job and are wondering, why am I not getting anywhere? Why am I not getting employed anywhere? I think one of the first things we touched on was what you wear.
Yeah. Thinking about the kind of business that you're applying for a job for.
Yeah.
Now, it is very safe to think dress above the level of where you think you're going to be.
Yeah.
I know that there's a couple of situations where I thought, oh, this is going to be chilled out, but I went for a suit anyway, and actually I turned up and everyone was in a suit.
Yeah.
So thank God that I'd done that, and not gone for more of a casual approach.
Yeah.
I know that we watch all the different social media kind of films and stuff where there's ping pong tables everywhere and what have you. And some companies are super relaxed like that, but it's easy to be overdressed.
Definitely.
Rather than being underdressed. So I think dress code is a certain consideration that you've got to think about.
Yeah. And like here, for example, most days if you come in, we're wearing, either our breakout tops or whatever we want, essentially. And that can be hoodies, that can be flip-flops if you're Farley. We're very chilled out. But I would still, every time, kind of expect somebody to come to an interview dressed smart-ish.
Dressed for
even though every day we are wearing hoodies, if you turn up wearing a hoodie to your interview, to me it just says, I don't care. There was a time that I interviewed a guy when I was a manager, and he literally turned up in a tracksuit, like full grey tracksuit.
Okay.
I'm all for being casual. I'm a casual kind of gal, but I was a bit like that. Just, it looks like you haven't thought about it at all.
Even if it's like you don't want to go full on suit.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
A smartish pair of trousers and a smartish top.
Yeah. Look like you care.
Yeah.
Like you planned to come to an interview. You didn't just roll out
of bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And straight to an interview. I think the next one for me is about timekeeping.
Yeah.
So if you're going to an interview especially, know where you're going.
Like
know where you're going to start with, and don't leave it to the last minute so you like kind of getting there all hustled and like kind of feeling a bit nervous because you're either on the time limit or late. Nothing worse than that.
Yep.
If you do find yourself in that situation where it's out of your control and you're going to be late because of roadworks or whatever it happens to be, it was unexpected, give a call.
Yes.
Let them know. Don't just turn up and be like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. Like, think that you're being proactive, because that's going to reflect well on you and turning that bad situation into a good situation. But try and get there early.
I once had an interview and they turned up half an hour late, and I had back-to-back interviews that day.
Wow.
The whole day I did interviews. By the end of the day I was like pulling my hair out. But they were half an hour late, and so I was like, well, I'm going to go for my lunch quickly to just get it in. And they turned up halfway through when I was eating, and I was like, oh, I just wait to eat my lunch.
Yeah.
And immediately, even though, I guess you could say it wasn't their fault that I started eating my lunch earlier, it then puts a bad taste in whoever's interviewing you's mouth.
Not just because of the lunch.
And not just because the lunch was bad, but it's like, it does give you that little bit of frustration immediately from the offset. So you have to work even harder to impress them.
Yeah.
Try and be on time. If, most people are very lenient, just give us a ring. Just ring and say, I'm really sorry this has happened.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the person
is going to
understand. We're all human. Things happen. But communication is key.
Yeah. And also when you're even when you're just going to wait as well, think as soon as you're entering that building, wherever the interview's taking place, I am on show.
Yes.
Like, I remember in my previous life as part of like an apprenticeship training team, we went and helped with some interviews for some people who found it difficult to get jobs. And there was like a bit of a team building exercise that we did to start with. And there was one candidate that really stood out and thought, this guy's going to get the job. And then in the feedback section afterwards, one of the managers of the stores that we were working with said, I can't have that guy. And I said, oh, that's interesting. We thought he was like a front runner. But the guy had the young lad who'd interviewed and that we thought was going to absolutely knock it out of the park had left a bit of litter just casually. And he said, that person is going to drive me nuts because in the warehouse, he's not going to put anything away. He's not going to be proactive about tidying up.
Yeah.
And just that one issue with leaving his empty bottle in and there was a bin not too far away as well. Just that perception, just that kind of switching on. So as soon as you're in a place, how are you talking to people? How are you interacting with people? You know, if somebody offers you a tea or a coffee, are you being talking politely?
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Another sort of tip, which again might be really self-explanatory, but I was telling Liam about this earlier, then I stopped because I thought I'll save it for podcast.
Yes.
So turn your phone off.
Yeah.
Any electronics that you've got, turn it on silent, put it on airplane mode, put it in your bag and leave it there.
Be present.
You know, we're all guilty of it. We walk around with our phone in our hands because it's like attached to us. Understand that. Just put it away. For that like hour long, put it away. We were, I was interviewing somebody and I'd taken her down to do the service challenge. So she was on the shop floor talking to people. She literally doesn't even say anything to me, takes his phone call, and just walks out of the store and takes his phone call. For over half an hour, she's on the phone having this phone call.
What are you doing? You just stand there like kind
I
of
just stood there like,
shocked.
because what are you meant to say in that moment? Like, she just, and it wasn't like, you know, from what I could sense, it wasn't urgent. It was a very like casual, hi, you all right? It's like, okay. I can then see her outside from the window, just watching her. She's just having this really casual phone call for about half an hour. She just walks back in and casually goes, can I get my coat? I'm going to go.
Wow. Okay.
She's just like,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Didn't even finish the interview, nothing.
Yeah.
Just, I let her take her coat and she left. And I thought, I can understand emergencies happen, right? First of all, your phone should be on silent if you're in an interview.
Yeah.
I think that's just courtesy.
Etiquette. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Same as that if we're in a meeting, we put our phones on silent. But you're just taking the phone call for a casual chat in the middle of an interview. That to me is wild.
For half an hour.
For half an hour.
Was it?
And not saying, oh, I'm just going to take this.
Sorry, I
quickly.
really need to get this for whatever reason.
Walked off. And me and my staff with absolute disbelief. And it's funny, like, it's a funny story now. But at the time, I was so annoyed. I was like, I have got so much to do. I can't believe that you have done that.
Yeah.
And I just thought, okay, you're very clearly not the person for me.
I mean, you found out before it went through to like being an employee and having that kind of needing to have that conversation. But yeah, that's it's just that communication piece, isn't it? With some people, it's
you've got to laugh. I think, you as somebody that has done a lot of interviews, and same as yourself, there are so many horror stories, and there are so many little picky things, and we're not sat here trying to tell you do this, do this, do this. It is scary going for a job interview, and you will make mistakes, and that is completely fine. If you are the right person for that job, that will show. It doesn't need to be as nitpicky as we're being.
Yeah.
This is just
based off our experience and some tips, tricks, and observations that we've had.
Yeah.
But think of it like if you're an employee, go and do your best.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. But also remember that the employer is probably just as nervous as you.
Yes,
Because
that's
it's not-
very good point.
It's not an everyday situation, like unless they're like an interviewer for like a multinational company or something. But like, it's likely that that person hasn't ever done it before,
Yeah.
or hasn't done it for a very long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go into it and try and kind of see that human on the other side.
Yes.
And try and build that rapport, that connection, and with any luck, then you have that communication with that person that kind of reassures them that you're the right person.
Definitely. And I think, we work with a lot of small businesses. And like I said, a few of them are starting to look into, okay, well, maybe I need a bit more help, which is it's brilliant they've got to that stage. But a lot of these people have never interviewed anybody before.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing equally as much as, you're nervous. It can be hard to sit there as an employer and go, okay, well, what do I need to ask? What do I need to do legally? There are so many hoops and things that you've got to jump through that, again, as a small business, you don't have anyone to lean on. So as small business support centre that we are, and as Farley and myself have been through that process of being the employer asking the questions, if you're in the position now where you're starting to think about hiring and interviewing candidates for different things, and you have no idea where to start with being an employer, we are around to help with that kind of thing as well. So we can help you figure out what questions you should be asking, the format of your interview, how you should be taking in your applications, activities that you can get them to do to help you figure out if they're the right person for you. All of these things, there's no manual somewhere that tells you how to do all of those. But we are able to help with all of that. The same way we're able to help with if you're looking for a job and you're struggling to write your CV, you're struggling to stand out to employers, you're not entirely sure what you should and shouldn't be saying when people ask you those questions, we can help with that too. That's more our life admin side than the business support. But again, as people that have been on both sides of that, we are more than happy to help you out with that kind of thing.
And it's okay. It's not easy.
No.
And it's absolutely okay. So make sure you pop into Breakout. Give us a buzz here at Breakout, or contact Nisha, Farley, Andy, and I'm sure they'll be able to set some help up for you.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway from this episode is give everything your best shot. What will be, and if it's meant to be, it will happen.
It will happen.
But like we said, tips, tricks, take what you want, leave what you don't need.
Yeah.
And if you've got any questions or anything that you want to ask us, you can get in touch with us through any of our social media, email, call, whatever. And I guess all that's left to say is thank you very much, Liam, for joining me on this episode.
Absolutely.
So I'm not on my own.
Excellent host.
Thank you. And please give it a like, comment, and share with somebody that you think might need a little bit of help in this area.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining us.
Catch ya.
See you later. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode. We really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please share with a friend who you think needs a bit of help with starting a business, or even their small business which they've already got going. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, which always helps a small business or small podcast like us. And check the show notes. We all have everything in there relating to the episode which you might need, might want to read, and links to anyone we've interviewed and certain subjects we've spoken about. And thanks for listening.